Welcome aspiring data scientists and welcome future Python programmers. Today we have another look at our loops in Python. In the previous class, we already learned how we can use the while loop, the for loop, and how we can use the enumerate loop. But in this lesson, we will learn how we can loop over a dictionary, over a NumPy array, and also in the end over a data frame. So let's start first, loops and dictionaries. On top over here, we have our dictionary with three different keys, and all of those keys have a value attached to it. Now we can run a for in loop through this dictionary basically, and we do this by first calling for, then we say, okay, key and value, then inside of what? Inside of our variable height. And for this case, we have to add the method.items in the end to it. So what do we want to do for each key and value? We call it here in our expression. So we want to first print out the key, then add an error in between, and then we want to print out the associated value to it. So we get this as result. First the key, then our error, then our value. And again, those loops are pre-coded and built in. So instead of naming them key and value, we can also just name them key and v, or apple and oranges, whatever you like. Now let's have a look at loops and 1D NumPy arrays, so the normal NumPy array. We can again just loop through each individual element by using the for in loop. And again, here we call it val or val for value, but you could also give it any other name that you would like to have in here. And then again, our expression is just to print out each individual element within our NumPy array, and this would be our output. We can also loop through a 2D NumPy array, so an array which stores more arrays. So in this case, we created np_bmi, which stores two different arrays, and these are np height and np weight. So the big problem is with this normal for in loop that the loop basically stops at every array. That is why you can see that the output is the first array and the second array. That can be quite useful if you want to see each array at once. But if you actually would like to loop through each individual value in an array, we have to use a different loop. For this problem, we have to use still the for in loop, but we have to modify it a little bit. And we do this by calling the NumPy function np.nditer. And obviously we call it on our variable np_bmi. And if you do this, you don't loop through an array, but you loop through each individual value that is stored in each individual array. So often this can be very useful if you have 2D NumPy arrays or even bigger arrays. Now let's have a look at looping and our data frames. Again, we first import our CSV file. We know already all of these steps. We define DE, NL, UK, FR as our indexes of our data frame. And now we jump into our for in loop. So if we call a normal for in loop on our data frame, unfortunately, only the column labels will be presented. And again, here I could call it X. I could also call it differently. Not that useful in my opinion, and probably also in your opinion. So if you want to make a little bit more complex loops with data frames, you have to use still the for in loop, but modify it by .itero. And then you can actually loop through the index and the content or the values in your row. How does it look like? In reality, first, the expression says print int and then print row. So first print the index and then please print the content of our row. So first we print our index, that would be DE, and then we print out the value in our row. And of course we have the associated label to it. And then we do it basically for each part of the data frame or for each index again. Now you can also do a little bit more selective loops. And for this case, you again use the itero loop, but this time in our expression, we use a different print statement. For example, we would like to have first the index, then an error, and then we would like to have the capital associated to our country. So first we say index plus our error, and then plus here rows. So we define which column actually we want to access. And here we define, okay, we would like to have the values of capital. So in the end, you will get your index, you get your error, and of course you get the value that is stored in the row under the column capital. So for the last slide of this presentation, we make a more complex expression in our for in loop. For this case, we always use the itero again. And after that, the idea here is that we want to add a new column to our data frame. How can we do it? We can specify it in our expression. What do? First, we call our data frame, and then we call our log function because we want to make a label-based search. Then on the left-hand side of the equal sign, we say, okay, we want to create a new column called name length, and we want to create a value for each individual index. So we want to have a new value for DE, a new value for NL, a new value for UK, and a new value for FR. What kind of value is that going to be? That is what we define on the right-hand side. And we define here, okay, we use the length function. So how long is a certain value, and what kind of values are those? Those are the values that are stored under the column name country. So basically we loop through each individual name over here, count the amount of letters, and in the end we store everything in our new column name length with the amount of letters that each country contains. The learning goals that we have achieved with loops are the while loop, the for loop, and the enumerate loop. And in this presentation, we did loops and dictionaries, NumPy arrays, and data frames. So overall, now you have maybe an idea how you can loop over a bunch of different data structures or data types. Congratulations, you have finished another video of our online lecture, and we are looking forward to see you in the next video. Goodbye.